Hey, my name is Cedric, and in this video, I'm going to talk about Facebook standard pixel events, and I'm going to talk about what they are, but I'm also going to show you exactly how you can send specific events to Facebook. So before I show you exactly how to create and set them up on your website, let's talk a little bit about Facebook pixel standard events and what they are. Well, it's actually a piece of JavaScript code that you can add on your website and see it as like a telephone, so it's a cell phone. So think about your website as one user and Facebook as another user, and they're trying to talk to each other, but they need a way to communicate. And those Facebook pixel standard events is like a phone, and it allows your website and Facebook to communicate so that Facebook understands what the users are doing on your website. One thing I want to mention before I show you how to install these Facebook pixel events on your website is that you need to have Google Tag Manager installed on your website in order to follow along this video. So if you don't have it on your website and it's not installed, no problem, pause this video, and in the description of this video, I'll actually leave a link with another video, and it's me showing you exactly how to install Google Tag Manager on your WordPress website, your Shopify website, and I also have a solution if you're not using any of these CMS. So make sure you watch this video. Once you've watched the video and it's Google Tag Manager is installed on your website, then come back to this video, hit the play button, and you'll be able to follow along. Nice, so I'm assuming if you're still watching this video, it's probably because you have now Google Tag Manager installed on your website, or maybe it was already installed, or maybe you're just really curious and you just want to keep watching the video. Anyways, I'm going to show you how to set this up now. So in front of me, I have an article from Facebook, and here they're talking about all the different Facebook pixel standard events and exactly what you can track. So that is a really important article, and I definitely recommend that you take a look at it, and I'll leave the link of this article in the description of this video so you can just open it up on your desktop. But let's scroll down here and let's take a look at all the different actions that you can track. Okay, and we actually have a long list. So we have add payment info, add to cart, add to wish list, complete registration, contact, customize product, donate, find location, initiate checkout, when a lead comes in, purchase, schedule, search, start trial, submit application, subscribe, and view content. So we have a lot of different options and a lot of different events that we can potentially optimize for. But one thing to keep in mind is that because of iOS 14 and all the different changes that are happening currently on the platform because of Apple, right now at the moment, you can actually only have 8 events, and you can track only 8 events per domain. So you'll want to go through that list and pick your events that you want to track really carefully, because like I said, you can't track all the different events. You can only pick 8. But for the majority of businesses, 8 is it's plenty of events. So now you're probably asking yourself what events I should optimize for or track. Well, it really depends on your industry and your business. So the best thing to do is kind of just like sit and think, maybe talk with your team internally and ask yourself, like, which events do you care about, right? If you're an e-commerce company, well, you probably care about things like add to cart, for sure purchase. Maybe if you have a wish list, add to wish list. Just keep in mind that you can only have 8 events and you can only track 8 events. But yeah, honestly, like, it's not a rush. Just think about it and think which events that you'd like to track so that you can potentially optimize for these events. Okay, now let's get technical, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can add these standard events to your website. So obviously, like I mentioned, you're going to need Google Tag Manager. So I just logged into my Google Tag Manager account. I'm in my demo account, and then this is my demo store. So also a store just for demo purposes. And then you'll also want to have Ads Manager open. So here I'm also in my demo account. So you're going to want to get into your Events Manager. So if you click on Business Tools, and then if you navigate to Events Manager, make sure that you see you're like seeing and viewing the right ad account. So you can see that here. Again, I'm in my demo account, so that's good for me. And then you have your pixel ID. So you're going to want to note this, or right now I can just leave it there. And we're going to have to copy that pixel ID shortly. So what we're going to do, and that's the first step, is to install the basic Facebook pixel on our website. So we're going to install it using Google Tag Manager, and you'll want to navigate to this article, and you can find that article in the description of this video. And then we will want to actually copy this code, and then I'm going to type Control-C, and then head into Google Tag Manager. We're going to create a tag, and then we're going to call it FB. call this basic tracking. Open this up, and this will be a custom HTML tag. Click on that, Control V. Now we're not done. We'll want to add our pixel ID, and you see where it says your pixel ID goes here. We're gonna delete that, and that's when we go here, copy our pixel ID, go back into Google Tag Manager, and Control V. Scroll down, trigger all pages, and we can save it. So now that we have the basic Facebook pixel, we'll want to go ahead and add our tags. So let's take a look at this website here, and let's see what are some events that I maybe want to track. So the first thing that pops into my mind is I want to track when someone comes on the page, because I might want to retarget people that have visited a specific page, or maybe I want to create a campaign goal that is view content. And when someone views a specific page, that's what I want to track as a result. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead in here, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to look at this event here called view content, and we're going to read it. It's a visit to a web page you care about, for example, a product or landing page. Or view content tells you if someone visit a web page URL, but not what they do or see on that web page. So that's exactly what I want. I want to track when someone views my a specific page on my website. So you might be asking yourself, like, what's the difference between the view content and then the basic Facebook pixel that I just installed on my website? Because if you've been using the Facebook pixel in the past, you're like, well, I can already create retargeting audiences from the people that have visited a certain page. Well, the difference between the standard like Facebook pixel and adding a view content event is that later on the ad set, you can optimize for that specific goal. So here's an example. Let's say that you use a conversion campaign, right? A conversion objective, and you're looking for purchases. Well, usually there's a learning phase, and you need about 50 conversions to exit the learning phase. Let's say in that first week, you only get 7 conversions. Well, you're gonna have a hard time leaving the learning phase. So what you can do to leave the learning phase is change your objective. So you might wanna change your objective to view content, and then you should be able to, I mean, if you have good ads and you're targeting the right audience with the view content objective, you can still do a conversion campaign with the view content objective, and then you'll be able to leave the learning phase. So that's just one reason why you would want to add the view content as an event. There's a lot more and a lot of different reasons, but I always recommend 99% of companies to always add this one as part of your 8 events that you want to track. So we're going to copy this. We're going to click Control C. We're going to go here, and then we're going to create a tag. And then we're going to say view content. Oh. Scroll down, custom HTML. And then what we need to do, because this is JavaScript, is we got to add our script. So we're going to add our script tags. And then we got to close our script. And this is how you close it. And perfect, we have our tag created. Now we just need to create a trigger. And we want this to trigger on all pages. But here's the thing. We want our Facebook pixel, like the standard pixel, always needs to trigger before any other sort of events. So we want our Facebook pixel to fire to Facebook, like the standard one, and then like a second after, not even, we want our view content to also fire. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click here, and we're gonna click on advanced settings. And usually you don't need to do this, it's really just for this tag. And we're gonna click on tag sequencing, and we want fire a tag before this tag fires. So we're gonna click on this tag, on this option, and then we want this tag, the Facebook basic tracking, to fire before this specific tag. So we're gonna, so perfect. Now we have this sequence set up, and obviously this one and this one, we're setting it up on all pages as well. Save. And perfect, now we're sending the view content event to Facebook. So now I want to go on my website and see what other things that I maybe want to track. Let's go here. Let's view this product. So the first thing that pops into my mind here is that we have an add to cart button, and I definitely want to be tracking this. So I'm going to go into Google Tag Manager, and in order to track this button, there's a few ways of tracking it, but the way we're going to do it is we're going to track the click. So we're going to track something associated with the click. So when a user clicks this button, what can we see in our variables? So I'm going to show you exactly how to set that up. So we're going to need to go in Google Tag Manager. We're going to click on triggers, and then we're going to have to add a trigger. And then we're going to call this one all clicks. And we're going to click on trigger configuration, all elements, and then we want to track all clicks. Now we can save it. One thing I just want to mention is you'll need to go in this variable section here on the left sidebar. So just click variables, and then you'll want to click on configure, and on pages, make sure page URL is there, maybe page path, and then under clicks, make sure that all of them are checked. And form, we don't need any of that for now. Just make sure that the clicks and the page URL and page path are all checked. Now I'm just going to go here. I'm going to Control C this URL. I'm going to preview our Google Tag Manager. And we're going to start it. Perfect. Now the reason why we added the click trigger is now if I click on the page, I'm clicking at the moment, and we go here, we can see that now the click appears. So that's pretty cool. We can see the click here. And what we want to do is check out the click variables like I just mentioned. Right now, I just clicked the page, so we won't see any click ID or, okay, we saw some click text somehow. But if I go here, oh, I think I clicked the price. That's why you can see the price in the click text. But if I click the button and I click Control, then I clicked so that it opens in a new tab, we can see that number 8 here is when I click the add to cart button. And we can see as well that the click text is equal to add to cart. So what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna create a trigger that when the click text is equal to add to cart, well, this means that a user have added something to their cart. And when that happens, then fire a tag containing this event right here, add to cart. So I'm gonna head into Google Tag Manager and I'm gonna create a trigger. And we're calling this add to cart. And it's always important to name your trigger properly so that when you go back in Google Tag Manager, you know exactly what they all are. And we're tracking, again, it's a click, some clicks, and we want the click text, and it's when it equals add to cart. So we can go back here and just Control C, Control V, and perfect, save it. So now we have our trigger. Now let's create our tag. We're going to create a new tag, FB for Facebook, add to cart. Again, custom HTML. All these tags, by the way, will always be custom HTML. We're going to create our script. Go here, add to cart. We're going to copy this. And I forgot to close it. Perfect. Now we have our script. And this one, because if a user clicks the add to cart, that means the page has already loaded, right? Because our Facebook pixel loads and sends the information to Facebook when the page loads. So in this one, we actually don't need to create a sequence or anything like that, because automatically, if the user clicks the add to cart button, it means that the page has already loaded. So we're going to keep it as is, and we're going to go in triggering, and we're going to click our add to cart trigger that we just created, and we're going to save it. Now, something else I want to track is, let's say, so I have this added to my cart. Now I'm going to view my cart. And then here I can see that there's a button here that says proceed to checkout. So what I might want to do is track when users are actually proceeding to checkout. So let's see here if it's actually an event. Initiates checkout. So to start of a checkout process. So that's exactly what we want to track. So I'm going to go here and let's see if I'm still in the debug. Oh, I believe, let me restart this. So I'm going to control the URL and I'm just going to exit this. And we're going to go back here and we're just going to preview it again. I'm going to open up that page. And perfect, we're back. Now if I click, you can see that the click shows up here. Now I'm gonna Control C. And then that's the last click. If I click here, variables, and let's take a look at the click text again, proceed to checkout. So what I can do is I can use this click text to create my trigger. So again, I'm gonna go here, trigger, call this proceed to checkout, and click, click text, equals again. And what did they say here? Proceed to checkout. Save. Create a tag. Custom HTML, again, we're going to create our script. No capital S. All right, now we have our tag created. We're going to click on our trigger and then proceed to checkout. Again, for this one, we don't need a sequence. It was just for the first one. We're going to save it. And now perfect, we just added a new event. Now let's cover something different, something that we haven't covered yet, right? Because so far, I think you potentially understand how to create a trigger based off a click. But let's talk about something like a purchase, right? So how would you go about tracking that? So what I'm going to go and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this and I'm going to place my order. Perfect. So I have just placed an order. So now we need a way to track users that have landed on this page. So the first thing I want to do is look at the URL and see, is there anything that is unique to the thank you page but also static? So I've done this multiple times, so I know exactly what is static and unique in this URL. And it's actually this keyword right here. So order received. You'll want to go through the purchase process a few times and look at the URL and try to identify what is unique to the thank you page, but also static. So for example, this would be unique to this thank you page, but it's not static. This is dynamic. This always changes based on the order. So I would not want to use this keyword right here, this key phrase. I want to use this one in my example. So this is unique to my store. In your store, it might be something like thank you instead of order received. So again, go through the process multiple times. So what I'm gonna do is go back to Google Tag Manager, and I'm gonna wanna create a trigger. And we're gonna do a new trigger, and that is for when someone purchases. We're gonna look and say page view, but we don't wanna fire this on all page. We only wanna fire this when a page URL contains a specific keyword. So we're gonna click on this, some page views, and we're gonna click page URL and not equals, but contains. And I'm gonna go here, copy this, and we can even add that. And then we can save it. Now that we have our trigger, we're gonna go into tags, and we're just gonna create a tag, and we're gonna create a tag for purchase events. Gonna go back here, and I'm just gonna copy the code. So now you'll see that this code is a little bit longer, so we can add more information with this code. So let's talk a little bit about the value and the currency. So most of the time, the value is never static, because someone can go on your website, buy the product that maybe you're showcasing in your ad or anything like that, and they buy that one, but they also buy another one to complement it. Or maybe I don't know, let's say you're selling socks. Well, they might buy a pair for them and also a pair for their friend. So they're buying that product, even if you're only selling one product and the value of your product is, let's say, $20. You don't want to add a value of just $20, because like I said, what if they buy more than one pair of socks? Then if they bought two pair of socks, but you're only tracking for $20 when it's actually $40, well, you're not going to be able to make data-driven decisions in your ad account. So it's really important that you're tracking value, and this number here should be dynamic. So I'm not going to cover that in that video, but I've actually made a video about adding a dynamic purchase value in Google Tag Manager. So what I'm going to do is instead just leave a link in the description of this video, and then you can just click that link to find my other video where I show you exactly how to add that dynamic value. And then if you want, you can, if you're using more than one currency on your website, then you can follow the same steps to create a dynamic currency. So it's going to change based on whatever currency the user used to pay it. But if, for example, you live in Canada or in the States and your currency never changes, well, it's fair to say that you can just leave it at USD or Canadian. So in this example, I'm going to leave this at like 5, and I'm going to leave it to USD. Now we're going to hit trigger, and we're going to click on purchase, and I'm going to save it. Now that we have covered, the basics, and you understand how to create triggers with a page URL, and also how to create a trigger based on the click, well, I want to go through the list of all the different events, and I just want to talk about briefly how I would go about tracking that specific event. So that if for some reason you don't see an event here that you wanted to know how to track, well, at least you'll know how to use the concept and the way that I've built this event so far to create that event that you have in mind. So let's go back here and let's just go through down the list, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I would track these different events. So add payment info, the way it really depends on how your website is structured. So if, let's say, the add payment info to purchase and everything is done on the same page URL, and it's just like something on it's just like the page is dynamic and it kind of changes as users go through the purchase process, well, then I would recommend using and tracking a click. But if when a user adds their payment information, they click, let's say, next, and then if it brings them to a new page, then I would track users going and reaching that new URL as your trigger. and I would look and see what is static and unique to that page, exactly what we did with the purchase. Add to cart, that we've covered. So add to wish list, I would track that the same way I'm tracking add to cart, because it happens when a user clicks the add to wish list button or the text. Now, sometimes it will be an icon, so you actually won't be able to track the text. So that's why you want to look at other variables. If you go here and I look at the click, well, we don't just need to, we can use other things than just the click text. We can use the click classes, the click element, the click ID, and the list goes on here. So look at your variables, look and see what is available to you. Just keep in mind that it needs to be unique and also not dynamic. So it needs to be static, meaning if you go back and you click the let's say the add to wish list button, every time you do it, you get the same click ID. And that click ID can't be on other buttons or other icons on your website, so it needs to be unique. Back here, complete registration. So I would track this the same way that we're tracking a purchase with a page URL, and I would look and see what is static and unique in that URL, and then from there I would track that and create a trigger around that. Now, contact. So the way I usually do this is I look at the click text and I say because what a contact event is, it's usually when someone either clicks your phone number to give you a call, maybe they click your email, and here they also give you an example of, like, let's say they chat with your chatbot. So the way I go about tracking this on my website is when someone clicks my phone number or clicks my email. So I'll create actually two triggers. If I go here under my tags, let's grab this one, for example. Let's say that we're sending this event right here, the FBQ track contact. And under trigger, I would create a trigger that when it clicks is equal to my phone number, or when a click is equal to my email, then fire this tag. And you can add more than one tag by clicking the plus. And let's say we can add the purchase here, and you'll see it's gonna show up like this. So it's gonna say add to cart or purchase. And that's how you can have more than one trigger. And if one of these trigger is true, it's gonna fire the tag with your JavaScript right here. And in this example, it would be the contact here. Now, customized product, that is honestly not something that I use often, so I'm not gonna talk about this one. Donate, so it really depends how your website works. Again, when someone makes a donation, I would probably redirect them to a thank you page, and then I would track that page URL and I would create a trigger based on that page URL. And then obviously when a user makes a donation, they get redirected to that page, and that's when we send a tag with donate script here. Now let's talk about find location. So that one's a little bit tricky because it really depends how your website is structured. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the example of Best Buy. So let's pretend I'm on the Best Buy website, and I don't know, they just hired me to set up their tracking and to set up their Facebook events. And they asked me, hey, can you help us send an event to Facebook when a user searches for a specific location? So perfect, sounds good. So what I would do is I would pretend I'm the user, I would click on stores, and now there's a search bar here. And if I type Ontario, and let's say Ontario, Canada, because that's where I'm located. Perfect. Now we can see a bunch of different locations. So I don't know if you noticed, but the URL actually changed. So what I would want to do is create a trigger, and the trigger would be search $Q. And when a page URL contains that and it's true, then that's when I could fire this tag right here. But before I create this trigger in my tag, I would definitely want to verify and make sure that this is only unique to this page and when I'm searching for something. And the search $Q doesn't appear whenever I'm searching, let's say, for an item on their search bar, because when a user search for, let's say, a product, it doesn't mean that they're searching for a location. So let's see here, it's saying search $Q, but if I go here and let's say I type Xbox, take a look at the URL. Search ? Okay, now it just redirected us to this page, but we saw search ? So that's what we would want to maybe trigger, and we would want to trigger search ? if we were creating a trigger for someone searching for a product, so someone using the search bar, but that's not what we're using, right? We want to create a trigger for when someone searches for a specific or searches for a location. So this one here works. So like we create again a trigger, and when the page URL contains search $Q, then it would trigger a tag. So that's how I would do it for the find location. Initiate checkout, we've already covered that. Lead, it would be the same way that you're probably tracking a purchase. So I would look at the page URL, and what I would honestly do is just whenever a lead submits a form or anything like that, they give you their information, redirect all your users to the thank you page. And then let's say it's your domain name / thank you. I would say when a user lands on this specific URL, then that's your trigger, and then it means that they just became a lead. So that's how I would track it. Another way is with button click. So let's say you have your form and then the button is submit. Well, we can track the click text, and then you can say, well, when the click text is equal submit, well, that means they've submitted their information. But keep in mind that let's say they don't send their, I don't know, they don't put in their email, or they put in their phone number or anything like that, and they hit the button submit, that it would track as a lead even if maybe the form didn't go through. So just keep that in mind. Purchase, we've covered that. So schedule, I would do the same thing. Just redirect everyone that has scheduled or booked a time with you to a specific unique page. Search, we've already covered this, but I can give you another example here. So I'm just going to duplicate this screen here. And let's pretend that I'm setting the tracking for Facebook actually. And this is a search bar and a user performs a search. Let's actually type pixel, and now let's hit search. And we can see the URL here, it changed. So $query equals pixel. So what I would do is I would say when a page URL contains $query, well, that means that someone is using the search bar. But one thing to keep in mind is that if you're using that as your tag, well, what if I type pixel and I see this and I Control-A, Control-C the URL, and then I send it to one of my friends? Well, they'll click that URL and they'll land on that page, and that might fire your tag. So that's usually when you want to play with sequences, and a user needs to perform a specific action before the tag gets triggered. But I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just kind of giving you an overview of how this would be tracked. So back here, start trial, again, just redirect them to a thank you page, submit application, same thing here. Subscribes, well, usually, like they're giving an example here, it's subscribing for a paid subscription. So you should definitely have like a thank you page or a page that you redirect all your users that have subscribed to whatever you offer. So you can use the URL on that page to create a trigger. And in view content, we've already covered that. So guys, that is it for this video. Hopefully now you have a better idea what events that you want to track. But just remember, you can only track 8 events per domain. So make sure you talk with your team and you just decide what events are really meaningful for your business and what would you like to track. Now, after watching this video, you should have an idea of how to create triggers and what are variables, and also how your tags work and how you can add a script here that they give you. You can copy this JavaScript here and just enter it into a tag, and then Google Tag Manager will take care of the rest. But if you have any questions, or maybe you have a question about what events that you should be sending to Facebook, well, don't be shy. You can leave me a comment and just make sure to include maybe your URL and also your industry, and I could actually take a look at it and tell you exactly which events I think you should track for your specific business. So don't be shy, make sure you ask that, and don't forget to go in Google Tag Manager and submit your changes, because if not, all your tags and triggers are not going to stay there, and you won't lose it. It saves it automatically, but it won't be published. So you want to submit your changes and then give it a name, and you'll want to publish it. And then one more thing is, also, you can always go here and preview what you've done. So you can maybe troubleshoot and see, well, are all my tags firing? Is everything working perfectly? And the way you can assist that and look at it is by going here. So you can go here under, let's say, container loaded, and you can see all your tags and what has fired and also what have not fired. So make sure you look at the preview tool and make sure you submit your tag. But that is it, guys. If you did enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because we release videos just like this one every week. Bye for now.